This is Billy Reed for the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame. And today we're interviewing Coach Dale Mabry from Pleasure Ridge Park High School. And Coach, congratulations on your selection and soon-to-be induction into the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you so much, Billy. What an honor this is. My whole life has been about basketball, and to receive this prestigious award is just puts icing on the cake, Bill.
Dale, your record is just remarkable. I mean, 840 victories and counting, a 78% winning percentage, 13 state tournaments, and amazingly, you've had your staff. You've been together with these guys for over 30 years.
It's just a very unique situation. Larry Kinley, my main assistant, has been with me for 31 years. He teases me all the time. He said our staff is most people change coaching staffs like they change socks, but yeah. We've been very, very fortunate. I've had Larry Kinley with me, as I said, for 31 years, and Mike Baxter for 30 years, and it's just like having, their whole staff is qualified to be head coaches, and it's enhanced the continuity of our program greatly. They're just two great basketball minds with me, and we just sound ideals off of each other, and they're just basketball junkies as myself is, and it's been a great ride.
Dale, I know you spent all your adult life in the South End. Did you grow up in the South End of Louisville?
I grew up 1 mile from Pleasure Ridge Park High School, and when it was my turn, my brother and sister went to PRP, and when it was my turn to go to PRP, they built Dawes High School, and they changed the district all the way down, I guess about a half a mile from Pleasure Ridge. So I had to go to Dawes, but my father, ever since I was old enough to walk, my father was a great Pleasure Ridge fan, Gary Schaefer fan, and one of his favorite players was Billy Burton, and we never missed a game, and he would take me to every game, so I grew up a Pleasure Ridge Park basketball fan.
I spent a portion of my life living in the South End. I went to school in the South End from the 2nd grade through the 7th grade. Lived very close to Iroquois Park. And the South End people, even though it's a part of Louisville, they're still kind of they have a sense of their own community out there that's really tight-knit, I think. I've always felt personally that the South End kind of gets the short end of the stick in many ways around here. It seems like there's a lot of attention paid to the East End and to the West End for various reasons, but the South End people I don't think really get the credit, the recognition probably that they deserve. Is that fair?
It's a hard-working end of the town, as you well know.
Oh, sure.
And we believe in setting goals, and we believe in going after those goals. And you talk about community. I grew up in Pleasure Ridge Park, and that community is so tight knit. Mm-hmm. And when Mr. Miller was an assistant principal, Charlie Miller was assistant principal at Dawes when I was over at Dawes, and when he became the principal at Pleasure Ridge, I was fortunate enough to come right out of college and have a job. And he brought our school environment up to be a true family. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason Pleasure Ridge has had so much success over the years with all their sports, is it's just a tight-knit, true family, a community family that believes in their high school, and it's been a unique situation.
And that, you used the right word there, unique, because I think what we've seen over the years in high school basketball with consolidation, a lot of schools have lost their identities. A lot of communities have lost their identities. It seems like that the high school has always been kind of the center of community activities, and that's not even the case a lot of places anymore. And I hate to see that. And even in basketball, Dale, this idea that so many of the players today seem like they have a greater loyalty to their summer AAU team than they do to their high school, and I think that's not a good trend.
No, it's not, and I guess not wanting to be so negative on AAU basketball, but it's a trend where I think it's eating away, eroding the fundamentals of high school basketball and the togetherness of high school basketball. you know, in AAU, you have so many all-stars on one team. They're not expected to play a whole lot of defense, and you know that in AAU, and you know, just wears away at the fundamentals of what they have to do to be successful on the high school level and entering the college level. And I think that's done a lot to erode the backbone of high school basketball. I agree with you 100%.
But even beyond the X's and the O's, to me, and as long as I've been around and traveled around the state, when you were called coach, that meant something. That was a position of respect within the community. And the coach always had the players' best interest at heart and the families. And now what you see with some of the summer league things is people getting involved who I don't think has the best interest of the player at heart. And I hate that for the young people, because I have great respect for the high school coaches who work so hard for very little remuneration, really. And I hate to see them getting away from that, because I think almost without exception, when I think of the great high school coaches that you're joining in the Hall of Fame, they've had such a positive influence on their community.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly. You know, again, the AAU coaches aren't with them, you know, on a daily basis. They're not looking after their academic progress. They're not, you know, looking after their well-being, as you said. You know, there's a lot to be said about high school basketball, but I agree with you. It seems to be going the AAU way more and more every year, which I think is a dangerous situation.
Dale, I remember growing up in the South End, having a lot of, really it was before even organized baseball. I don't think we had Little League in my part of town until maybe I was 11, something like that. Played a lot of sandlot ball. In the summers, that's all we'd do. Leave the house in the morning and not come back till it got dark, just playing ball.
Remember those days well.
Did you have that kind of a childhood also?
You know, yes, I played Little League baseball, but my true love was basketball. And if there was a basketball being bounced in the neighborhood, I was going to be there. So yes, I would stay out in the summertime, stay out from the morning until evening time when it was supper time. And then I would try to get back out after supper time. Yeah. Now it's not so much that way now. The kids have got so much to do now. They love their video games. You know, they love, you know, doing this, that, and the other. That's not necessarily the greatest thing for them to do. And but you're right. I guess togetherness of our whole neighborhood was something special to me, because you know, we would always go from one house to the other house to the other house, and we were always together. You don't see that as much right now.
When you were young, were you a Cardinals fan or a Kentucky fan, or just didn't really care much?
To be very honest with you, my household is a little bit unique, I guess, in some ways. My mother has always been a great U of L fan, and my father, God rest his soul, was a great U of K fan. So, you know, I was always caught in the middle, but I guess I was brought up more of a U of K fan because I was always with my father, you know, hanging out with my father. So, but I was brought up that way.
And you played ball at Dawes High School.
Played at Dawes and went on to junior college, St. Catherine Junior College. It's now a 4-year university, but I went to St. Catherine and played there. And after those years, you know, I wasn't going to be the star or the main players. The writing was on the wall as much as I love basketball. But I had a burning desire to stay in basketball. So when I got back to Louisville, I immediately started helping Glenn Colley and Freddie Copus down at Valley as I was finishing up my schooling. And that was a great situation for me there.
Was Mr. Cantrell still the principal of Valley?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
That's a great sports tradition there at Valley, too.
Oh, fantastic. When I learned so much. My senior year at Dawes High School, Leon Mudd came aboard and was the assistant coach to Sam Hosbach at Dawes. And Leon Mudd brought a totally different atmosphere to our team. And I graduated in 1974, and not a whole lot of teams were pressing teams back then. And Leon came from a college background, and he immediately installed the 2-2-1 press, and he changed it in various variations. And so that really intrigued me a whole lot. And when I left high school, as I said, and came back to start help Glenn Colley, Glenn had a unique situation. Glenn pressed 2-1-2. Never saw that before. And what he got out of players was amazing to me. He took, very average talent and just did amazing things with them. I was very fortunate to be helping him when he went to the state final and played Ballard in the state final in '77. So I've just had a world of great background in basketball and watching those, Leon Mudd and Glenn Colley, what great basketball minds, and it always intrigued me. I knew that's what I wanted to do.
So you're kind of, as you're serving as an assistant coach, you're kind of mentally taking notes about if I ever get to be a head coach, I'd like to do this or that, and that sort of thing. And then
Pretty much so.
You went back to PRP when, in '79?
In '78, in December of '78, I got out of U of L, and Mr. Miller hired me the week I got out of U of L, and I was the freshman coach that year, and then I was the JV coach the next year, and from then on I've been the varsity coach there. It's been a fantastic ride.
It is really, you are a throwback. It seems that from my early years, it seemed like so many of the great coaches just stayed in one spot. They didn't move around. One of the other coaches who has over 800 victories, Coach William Keene from Central High School, and he spent his whole career. But I think about Letcher Norton at Clark County, or John Bill Trivet at Pikeville, or Ralph Carlisle at Lafayette. They all stayed put, and you don't see that as much. It's maybe it's because there's so much moving around in the NBA and the colleges now. Maybe high school coaches do that too. But have you ever been tempted to leave PRP? Have you ever had any desires to coach anyplace else?
They tease me all the time at school, everybody wants you to embrace change. Well, I'm I guess an old school guy. I don't like change. That's why I've never looked to go anywhere else. I was fortunate enough in 1986 when Derek Wilcox played for me. I thought was one of the best guards I've ever watched, much less had an opportunity to coach. Mm-hmm. When he signed with Vanderbilt, C.M. Newton talked to me a little bit, and they had a position open then. But I am so close with my family. My father was still living then, and my mother's my biggest fan, and Pleasure Ridge Park's biggest fan, and I'm so close with my family. I could never, leave. That's never even been on the drawing board. So I started at Pleasure Ridge, and that's where I'll conclude.
I've just so many times in search of fame, fortune, whatever. Coaches are always chasing the next job. But I think there's a lot to be said for knowing who you are, having certain values, and being content. I mean, how much money does a guy need? How much glory does a guy need? But it sounds like that you have really pretty much known who you are all along, and you've been really content to be who you are.
Well, I was brought up, a very close-knit family, and yes, that they've always encouraged me to find my own identity and to go for. My father was always a firm believer, if you were going to do something, then you do it right to your best ability. Mm-hmm. So, that's always been in the back of my mind. And as far as chasing jobs where the talent might be here or there, I've always, they've done so much for me in that community that I feel that I owe them, and I'm going to do the best I can with the ability that comes through the door. I think one of our greatest achievements, people talk about the 13 times we've been to the state tournament, but I think one of our greatest achievements has been having a 20-game winning season. I think we've had 28 of those. At one time, it was 18 in a row. To me, that's a testament of a true basketball program and not a basketball team.
Consistency.
And I think being able to have my assistants with me all those years has enabled us to have that type of a program, and I'm just so very proud of it.
Coaches at the big-time college ranks have become more CEOs almost than teachers. Bobby Knight always told me that he considered himself to be a teacher. And there were some faculty members at Indiana when he was there who claimed he was as good a teacher, a professor, as there was on campus. Do you see yourself like that? Do you see yourself as a teacher?
I do view myself as the gymnasium as a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a detailed person. I like to be very, very organized. And I'll throw it back to my assistants again. You know, we've all got our strengths, and we all use each other as sounding boards. And I think being able to do that and to have people around you like that, I think, you know, you can bring out the best in the young men that we've coached over the years and put them in the situations where they can be successful. You know, I've just been very fortunate.
Dale, obviously when you're a high school basketball coach, the Sweet 16 is the ultimate goal. You've been in the Final Four of the Sweet 16 7 times. In 1986, I think, is when you reached the final game for the first time. Is that right?
Against Pulaski County.
You played
Reggie
Hansen. And doggone, I looked at this score, and it was 47-45. They beat you by it. But what did they hold the ball in that game, or did you hold the ball?
No, we weren't a team. That was with Derek Wilcox and Desmond Porter and Brian Joyner. And no, we were a pressing team and very disciplined on the offensive end, but not holding the ball. I think they held it for 2 or 3 stretches for a good while. They held it for a couple of minutes at the end to get that last shot. Derek Wilcox, we ran a play for Derek, and he came off the baseline and came into the lane. I can see it like it was yesterday, Billy. And he missed about a 6-foot jumper in the lane, hit the back of the rim and came off, and that would have been for the win. And then they got the ball and went down, and what's coach's son's name? Fraley. His son hit the shot to beat us. So, you know, that was very, very disheartening. I mean, that was the first time there for us, and I guess it was all new to us. It never gets old, don't get me wrong, but that was disheartening for that to happen. But you know, we came back in 89 and got the job done by only 2 points again. So
against Wayne
County.
Yeah.
Rodney Woods does a great job.
And Andy Pinnock was the MVP of that state tournament?
Andy, funny story, Billy. 2 days before we left for the tournament, we were in practice, and a very seldomly used substitute, a young kid, matter of fact, freshman, Andy went up for a layup in practice. And he slid up under Andy, and Andy came down on his ankle. It's the worst ankle I've seen since I've been in coaching. I mean, that thing was huge.
Wow.
And I thought, there goes all the dreams we've had for this year. There it goes. And Andy was a warrior. I mean, probably the best shooter I've ever coached. And as far as a hard-nosed young man, second to none. And Andy went to all that therapy and worked, and his ankle was still in bad shape. And he went to the state tournament, and you wouldn't have known he had an ankle like that. It was an amazing performance for him all the way through.
Dale, I've heard people say that sometimes when you set your sights on a goal, when you finally achieve it, there's almost a sense of disappointment that you felt like you should feel more. What did you feel like when you finally reached the top of the mountain?
It was amazing to watch those young men on the floor celebrate. Totally amazing. I can remember to this day. Buddy Fott was a teacher at our school, and his son Sean Fott played for us. Started with Andy at the guard position, and they came down and took a shot that could have won the game for them. He took a 3-point shot that could have won the game for them, and it came off. And Sean Fott was only about 5'8". And Sean Fott came out of that lane. He waited out of that lane with the ball, and as the clock was just ticking down and that horn was sounding, Sean just took off sprinting down the floor holding that ball. It was just an amazing feeling. But to watch those young men, you know, as I get older, and you used to think, wow, what an accomplishment for me. But as I get older, that doesn't matter. Any of that doesn't matter. It's just when I watch those young men, it just melts your heart.
I would think that one of the great things would be when you take the trophy back to your home community. What was that like for you to take that big trophy back to Pleasure Ridge Park?
An amazing experience. When we got off the expressway, they had a fire engine waiting for us. You know, the kids got on the fire engine. We went down Greenwood Road. You know, the community, I don't know how many hundreds of people were there. They were in the parking lot. And when we turned in that parking lot, it was something else. Just something I'll never forget.
That's got to give you chills.
Oh, it
just
does.
thinking about it.
I'm getting them right now.
Yeah. And again, that's a community like Pleasure Ridge Park. A lot of hard-working people that don't have life easy in many cases. So a moment like that, I think, would be especially meaningful to them. The sense of pride. It's probably something you could just feel.
Oh, definitely. We were the first team to win a state championship at Pleasure Ridge of any sport. And I just think it uplifted the whole community. The whole school was on cloud nine. It was just an amazing experience. Of course, Bill Miller's got about 6 or 7 of them now.
Yeah. And then you went back to the championship game a few years later against Breckinridge County, and had a 7-point loss this time. What do you remember about that game?
Well, it was a tough game. Breckinridge County was the Cinderella team of that tournament, and 99.9% of those people in Rupp Arena were from Breckinridge County. It was an eerie feeling a little bit. They could shoot the heck out of the ball. Smart, just a great group of young men. We started out with a pretty good lead, and then my 2 big boys got in foul trouble, and then it got close for the rest of the way, and they jumped out to that lead there coming down the stretch, and they were hard to, they moved the ball so tremendously, and it was hard to come back once they got that 5-point lead on us, and it ended up being 7, but once they got that 5-point lead, it was tough to get that ball back from that group.
Dale, you've had 33 years in now, 840 victories. You've accomplished about everything a high school coach can accomplish and a lot more. You've been the National Coach of the Year. You've sent more than 100 young men to play college basketball, and over 34 or so of those in Division I, and 27, I think, 20-win seasons, 6 30-win seasons, and yet you still are going. What do you see in the future for Dale Mabry?
I don't know. It has to come to an end one day. But it gives me so much energy when I walk in the gym and those young men are there. I don't know what life would be like without basketball. It's all I've ever known. It's all I've ever wanted to do. So the day I walk out of that gym, it's going to be a scary feeling for me because I'm not sure I'm equipped to do much else, Billy. But it's been a great ride.
Well, you could be PRP's #1 fan, I guess.
I guess I always will be.
Yeah.
I've never cared to venture out of there. It's just a special place.
Is there anything left that you haven't done that you'd like to do?
Right now I'm at the stage, and I guess a lot of the older coaches are, we're just living for the young men. You used to celebrate when you won the district or won the region or, had a great state tournament run. Now I have fun watching them celebrate. So it's, I guess that's my goal now, is just to put them in the best position they can be to be successful. Young men on the floor, off the floor, and as they graduate from high school, moving into college.
Dale, the way this works with the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame is that in 2018, it's going to be the 100th anniversary of the state tournament. And by that time, we will have an inaugural class, really, of 100 coaches, boys, girls, representing 100 years of high school basketball. You're now a part of that. What would you tell? This will be on display. This interview will be available in the Basketball Hall of Fame when it's built down in E-Town. What would you tell maybe young people that might have an interest in coaching? Would you encourage young men to seek careers as teachers and as coaches?
Well, I guess I would suggest follow your dream like I did. If basketball is something that's very important to you, what a career it's been, what an exciting career it's been. But if you're getting into it for the money situation, I would stay as far away from that as you could stay away from it. But knowing that you're a teacher already and knowing anybody that applies for a basketball job has a great love for basketball, they're in for an exciting ride. Just be ready to work hard. There's no substitute for hard work, not at all. And I was brought up like that, and I'm a living testament, I guess, to say, through hard work, great things can happen.
Dale, in closing, is there anyone that you'd like to mention or thank or single out that I haven't mentioned? Anything you'd like to say that I haven't brought up?
Well, again, I'd like to thank my family. My mother and my father have been a great inspiration to me all my life, encouraged me to follow my dreams. And, they were the reason I was able to do all this. Been my biggest fans all my life. Gave me the support that I had to have. And then Mr. Charles Miller, state representative now, was a tremendous principal. I thank him for giving me the opportunity. What a ride it's been. When he hired me, I was 25 years old, and there were a lot of individuals that told him I was far too young to take on a program like Pleasure Ridge, and he believed in me. And what a great honor that's been to work for him and to have his belief in me. And then Mr. David Johnson, that's principal at Pleasure Ridge now. A lot of times when new principals take over, they change staffs altogether. And he believed in me, and I would like to thank him. It's just been a tremendous ride. The community has been fantastic. I just don't know where my life would have been without the support of the Pleasure Ridge Park community.
Dale Mabry, Hall of Famer, congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you.